Hello everyone, my name is Rashawn Falayuddin, and today I would like to talk to you about a very serious situation that America and all around the world are facing. Gun violence in teenagers is a very serious problem, and it happens to relate to myself. Personally, I can relate to this situation. When I was 16 years old, I was shot and paralyzed due to a gunshot wound and permanently paralyzed. The only thing that kept me positive mind state was family support, close friends, and a very positive structure coming up prior to this traumatic experience I was facing. I was from the south side of Chicago, and I can't say I was doing the right thing all the time, but I had a very good upbringing and very decent parents to guide me in the right direction. I chose to wander off and venture and get influenced by peers and that nature, and I suffered the consequences of my actions, but I did not let my injury overcome me and depress me. I kept a positive mind frame about the situation. I can remember actually immediately after I got shot, I can remember laying on the ground, and in my peripheral vision, I could see my mother walking towards me, and she was very distraught, and I have never saw my mother out of character like this. Like, it kind of, messed me up in the head for the 1 or 2 minutes that I saw her walking towards me. But I knew that the only way that I could stay positive and calm her down was to let her know that I myself was calm and okay. So when she came up to me, she was crying and she was like very disoriented. And I told her, with a calm voice, I said, "Mom, I'm okay." And instantly in that moment, her whole demeanor changed and she herself was calm. So my point about this is positive. I want you to remember this acronym throughout the delivery of this message. I don't want to really particularly call it a speech, but I would rather use the words building. I want to have a building session with everyone. I want you to remember this acronym. Positive energy activates constant elevation. P.E.A.C.E. There are two types of people in this world. You have builders, you have destroyers. I am 42 years old from the south side of Chicago. And at the point in time, I was involved in a lot of things that probably my parents wouldn't have knew about or suggested or even considered doing the right thing. At the age of 16, I was shot and paralyzed on the south side of Chicago from a drive-by shooting. And this was a very traumatic experience for me, but luckily I had parents, positive people around me, and a nice structure that would allow me to overcome my trauma and continue to be independent in society and be successful and live my life the way that I knew was possible. I didn't get depressed. I didn't let the situation just stop me from living my life, but I maintained a positive mind frame. And I always stress that positive energy activates constant elevation, because my positive energy about my situation causes other people around me who may be in a negative situation or feel like something is going wrong in their life. They will see me in my situation and they will see, he's doing very well as far as maintaining a positive outlook on his situation, regardless of the trauma that he experienced. That in turn help people realize what they take for granted, the little things they take for granted, is not that serious over, how much they stress about it. So in turn, I'm kind of therapeutic to others. My positive mind frame is kind of therapeutic to others, and I recognize that, and I always try to use it for positivity. Anybody at any time, kids especially, because kids come up to me and they see me in the wheelchair and they wonder like, what happened to you? How did you get in this? How did you get in this predicament? How did you get in this situation? And I use that time as an opportunity to teach. Each one teach one. I let them know, hey, I was doing wrong things as a teenager, as a young adult, and if you don't want to be in this situation, you'll listen to your parents and you will do the right things instead of listening to outside influences that are negative. At that instant, my positive energy telling my mother that I was okay changed her whole demeanor, and I recognized that positive energy had flooded through my mother and caused her to have positive energy. It actually worked both ways because in turn, I was staying positive for my mother, and it also allowed me to stay positive for myself and keep a positive mind frame too. Remember that positive energy activates constant elevation. Gun violence amongst teens in America is very serious and it needs to get addressed. Not only the traumatic experience that a teen suffers, but the healing and coping mechanisms that teens need to have in order to get over their trauma and continue to live their life is very important. Continue to live a successful life knowing that they can achieve all their goals they still had, all the goals that they might have thought that just because they got injured, they can't do anything anymore. That must change because the mental health condition after a traumatic experience is important. Now each individual, they cope with certain traumas differently. Some are stronger than others. Some don't actually cope. Some continue to deal with it for the rest of their life. At 16, after I was diagnosed with a complete injury, T12, complete spinal cord injury due to gunshot, I was placed in the rehab floor of the hospital for 2 months. And during this time, I was roomed with three other guys that had the same condition as myself. And I noticed that they were kind of different. Like one guy, he was really depressed about it. Another guy, he was upset about it. And another guy just like, I think he just let the whole situation just he lost to the whole situation because he was never the same. He wasn't responsive. Never saw him smile again. He rarely even talked. Like it really messed his head up. And this is important. Now, these guys that I was hospitalized with, hey, it might have been different situations for different individuals, but coping with the realization of one day I was walking and the next day I have to deal with being confined to a wheelchair for the rest of my life. It's a difficult process, and you need the right people in your life to help you get through this situation so you can get back to normal. When I say you're normal, you have to accept what your actual normal, your new normal is. Another thing I noticed about the guys that I was hospitalized with is one had his mother and his girlfriend come always to the hospital and, support him and everything. Another guy, I rarely saw anybody visit him. And another guy had his mother come up all the time. And me, I had my mother come, my father come, teammates from my sports activities. This was all a support system that helped me get through my trauma as well. But one thing I noticed is from the other guys, there were no males that came in support of these guys. And we were all teenagers at the time. We were all 16, 17 years old. So this is such an important addition to what I'm trying to say is that teenagers, they need a male, teenagers, kids, adolescents, infants, all that. They need the male structure in the household. If it's not the actual father or the parent, it has to be some type of male around helping raising the child and giving them a positive structure or influence, because it's just it needs to be there to in order to condition the individual to be able to deal with certain traumatic experiences that we're talking about right now. And that strong structure of influence will help you cope with traumatic experiences in a teenager's life or a child's life or individual's life, period, and raising, coming from adolescence to teen to young adulthood. I believe seriously that being involved in sports and having that competitive structure, or just being on sports teams, really helped me in my time of trauma at 16 years old. Because at 16 years old, you kind of like going through identity, you're learning yourself, you don't really know what you want to do, you're uncertain. And for something like that to happen, it can really throw an individual off mentally. But I was fortunate and I was lucky to have people in my corner. Like my teammates came to visit me, my coaches came to visit me, and all these things built up and allowed me a strong structure to go through my rehab and get back to my normal in society. Since 1994 until now, 2020, I've realized that my paraplegia and my positive mindset is rather therapeutic to individuals. I have friends and family come up to me all the time and say, Rashawn, you are a positive influence on me, man. I complain about little things. I complain about this and I get depressed about this. But I see you and you keep this smile on your face and you just go out through your day and you don't let your situation bring you down or nothing. You do a lot of stuff, you live your life, and I tell them, I say, there's no sense of me being upset or continuously being depressed about my situation, because I will be losing out on life. Hey, I'm in the mindset of, if life serves you lemonade, make a lemonade stand. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that my situation and my positive mind frame, I have a very strong mind and it has developed over time. But the structure comes from positive people in my life, that positive influence. So I just tell people, like, man, no matter what, you can always look at things from a negative point of view. You can look at things from a positive point of view. But what will really help? Yes, you have to be prepared for the worst, but you hope for the best. And throughout these times, that's when I realized that I wanted to do something to help build people who have traumatic experiences like I had, and to help build with them and let them know, like, regardless of this experience or this traumatic thing that happened to you, you can continue your life. It does not stop. Specifically, teenagers who have suffered gunshot, are victims from gunshot, who are after the gunshot, they're paralyzed and they have to live a whole different life. Some people can't mentally be prepared for this, or they can't even go through it. They just lose their whole self and their whole personality, and they turn into a whole nother person. My older brother told me, he said, man, I commend you. You're a strong dude. You're a strong individual. I could not do it. And my brother was like the strongest, biggest guy that I knew, and I used to want to be like him. But I realized that each individual has different things. Okay, yes, I overcame my trauma and I maintain a positive mindset on my paraplegia. But that's not to say that I will be mentally strong enough to be able to deal with, let's say, not having my father in my life, or not having parents at a young age, or having to grow up at an early age, way before my time, and take care of myself at 13, 14 years old. It's the same thing. I wouldn't be able to do that. Some people are mentally strong enough and have done that in their life. So it's give or take. It's not just because I'm keep a positive mind frame on my situation, that doesn't mean that I'm no any better than anyone, or I can even do it in certain situations. It just happens to be this situation that is mine. I wanted to focus on going to rehab floors, talking to guys and females who are teenagers that suffered gunshot wounds and are permanently paralyzed. They have to know from somebody specifically who went through the same thing they went through that life doesn't stop. And I would tell them the exact same thing that my occupational therapist, that my physical therapist told me. They looked me in my eyes and they said, Rashawn, your life doesn't stop after this. Your life is not over. You just have to do things differently. You have to properly plan your day, and you have to do things differently. And if you keep this mentality, knowing this, you will be able to succeed in society and do everything it is that you wanted to do. Again, that is that positive influence, positive energy, activating constant elevation. Teen gun violence in America affects 3,000 plus individuals, leading to death, leading to mental health issues, leading to paralysis, and all sorts of negative outcomes on people's lives. Now, awareness is the key, but we can't say that we can totally stop gun violence in America and all over the world. But what we can do is increase the awareness. We need to teach realistic outcomes that kids will face in their life in school. Teachers need to be able to teach kids real things about real life and real life situations so that they are aware. If the child is aware, knowing that, hey, in life, sometimes life gonna throw you curveballs, all the time, life is gonna throw you obstacles, but you have to have the right mindset to be able to overcome these obstacles. We will not be able to stop gun violence as a whole, but what we can do is help individuals be prepared mentally and physically after their traumatic experience, so they will be able to maintain or gain a positive mind frame about their situation, so they can be able to be successful members of society. I believe that no matter how negative the mind has become to a situation, I believe that positive energy will overflow negative energy. Positive energy will activate constant elevation. Conclusion of my building session, I want to emphasize the importance of positive people around you. I want to emphasize a good family structure, close friends, support groups, and really importantly, I want to emphasize the necessity of male influences during the raising of childs, infants, adolescents, preteens, and young adults, men and women. Not totally stop gun violence in America and all over the world. We can definitely raise awareness, and we can definitely change our methods in helping teens and individuals who are gunshot victims. We can help them mentally prepare to be able to cope with and deal with their trauma or their traumatic experience, and we can help them be able to gain a positive mindset so they can be able to be successful members and get back into the community and be independent and be successful members of society, successful contributing members of society. And all this will take is positive energy. Each one teach one to each individual. Positive energy activates constant elevation. Peace.